In July, the sweltering heat in Chongqing made it hard to breathe. The air felt like a steamer, making my head spin. I pulled my luggage out of the airport, didn't even have time to buy a bottle of water, and hailed a cab to the address Sophia Lane had given me, XX Complex, Building 4, Unit 203. I was stopped by security at the complex entrance. "Hey, can you let me through? I'm here to see my girlfriend. She lives here," I said, trying to keep my voice low. The security guard looked at me warily. "You don't even know the owner's information? Why should I believe you?" "For real. Her name is Sophia Lane, and she lives in Building 4, Unit 203. I've sent packages here before without any issues." I thought this would clarify things, but the guard's expression changed abruptly. "Stop lying. I know 4203. It's where a newlywed couple with the last name Wang lives. How could it be your Sophia Lane?" He waved his hand irritably and told me to leave. The guard's room door slammed shut, and his cold, distant gaze through the glass window felt like a knife, making my face flush. But the guard's words were chillingly cold. How could Sophia have deceived me? I'd sent packages countless times, and the address was always correct. The photos she posted on social media clearly showed the background of this very complex. I pulled out my phone and repeatedly compared the photos. The more I looked, the more suspicious it became. Why hadn't she mentioned these supposed Wang neighbors? Or maybe she never intended for me to know. This wasn't her regular place after all? Couple of cigarettes? A low voice sounded from behind me, startling me. I turned around to see a man in black clothes and a duckbill cap. He kept his cap low, revealing only a pair of piercing eyes that seemed ice-cold. His lips were thin like a blade. "I don't smoke," I replied cautiously, trying to distance myself from him. He didn't seem bothered, just smiled to himself. "You're trying to find someone. Can't get in? I can take you in." I stared at him, filled with suspicion. "How did you know?" He didn't answer, pointing to a nearby convenience store. "Buy a pack of cigarettes at 5:30. Believe it or not, your call." After that, he turned and disappeared into a nearby alley. I stood there for a long time, feeling like his appearance was more than a coincidence. But right then, I was at a dead end. Without thinking, I bought cigarettes and decided to take a chance. At 5:30, I was at the complex entrance. He showed up, driving an old van with the window rolled down, revealing his expressionless face. "Get in," he said. "What for?" I frowned. "To take you inside." His tone was calm but carried an unchallengeable confidence. After getting in the van, he drove to the complex entrance. He casually told the guard, "Here to install air conditioning." The guard didn't ask more questions and let us pass. "Shift change," he shrugged with a casual tone, leaving me feeling uneasy. When we reached Unit 4203, I mustered the courage to knock on the door. The door opened, and a man in his 30s poked his head out. He raised an eyebrow, looking annoyed. "Who are you looking for?" "Sophia Lane. I came for her. She gave me this address," I explained urgently. The man sneered and suddenly yelled into the house, "Cheap woman, are you giving out this address again?" As soon as he finished speaking, he dragged out a disheveled woman. Her face was swollen, and her eyes were full of resentment as she glared at me. "Look, is this your girlfriend? Get out of here." The man's voice was shrill with a hint of anger. I froze, shaking my head in denial. No, it's not her. I don't know her at all. I'm here for." Before I could finish, the man looked ferocious, waved his hand, and said, "Don't waste words." He then pushed the woman back into the house. She suddenly struggled and cried out, "Take me away. Please, don't leave me here." The door slammed shut, and the world became silent. Standing there, I felt a cold sweat on my back. Images of Sophia's face kept popping into my mind, her disappearance, her strange behavior. Everything seemed off. The man in black leaned against the corridor wall, hands in his pockets, watching me with an enigmatic smile. "Your girlfriend's situation isn't as simple as you think." "What do you mean?" I turned abruptly, staring at him. "Trust me and follow," he said, turning to walk down the stairs without looking back. Without hesitation, I bit my lip and followed. The alley was long and winding, growing darker as we walked further in. The uneven brick beneath my feet seemed to foreshadow something ominous. Finally, he stopped in front of a rusty iron door. "There might be the person you're looking for in there," he whispered, pointing inside. A scream erupted from within, cutting off abruptly, making my heart sink. "Now," he whispered urgently. pushing open the door. Inside, the air was thick with mold and a strange, metallic smell. Under the dim light, a woman lay curled up on the ground, covered in blood. It was Sophia. Sophia! I exclaimed, but before I could rush to her, the man in black caught me. His eyes were sharp as he whispered calmly, "Stay calm. Someone's coming," he whispered, crouching low and gesturing for silence. Outside, we heard footsteps and a man's rough voice. "Damn it! She can't have gone far. When we catch her, we'll definitely make her pay." The man in black's eyes turned fiercely sharp as he whispered to me, "Take her and don't look back." He smiled coldly and walked towards the door, like a silent hunter approaching his prey. "You're on your own from here," he said, leaving behind a chilling smile as his figure merged into the night. Just as I was piecing together the chaotic thoughts, a tap on my shoulder made me jump. It was Logan Reese. "Let's go now. This isn't the time to dwell." Finding Sophia might unravel the truth. His voice held certainty and depth, making my heart pound. Right as I was trying to sort out my jumbled thoughts, a blinding flashlight beam shot towards us from a distance, making me squint and step back. At the door stood 3 police officers. The beam of their flashlight pointed straight at us. The young officer in front looked complex, seeming amused by the scene before him. Logan Reese remained composed, smoothing out the wrinkled collar I had grabbed and speaking with a bit of sarcasm. "You guys finally showed up. If you were any later, I might have reported you for harassment." "Who harassed you?" I was about to explode but realized how ridiculous I sounded, given the situation. The young officer, trying to stifle a laugh, explained, "We received a tip that someone might be hiding in this abandoned factory. We knocked but no one answered, so we broke in. The scene we found, well, it's..." Logan Reese's eyes sank, and he gave the officer a cold glance. "Now prove I'm a cop." He pulled out his police badge and calmly waved it. "Are you really a cop?" I was taken aback, my face flushing. I took the badge to examine. His name, badge number, everything matched perfectly. He was genuinely a police officer. "Why didn't you reveal your identity earlier?" I asked, still a bit hostile, though I knew I was in the wrong. Logan Reese shrugged, smiling wryly. "If I reveal my identity, you won't believe me. If I don't, you freak out. If I'd known you'd be this uncooperative, I would have taken you straight to the police station to sort things out." I gritted my teeth, tempted to lash out, but seeing the situation, it was pointless. I could only stand there, confused. Another officer intervened. "Since the misunderstanding is cleared, do we continue the search?" On the way here, we grabbed a couple who were arguing in the alley. The man claimed they were just drunk. We took them in. The woman was shaken and is being taken to the hospital. Hearing this, I tensed up and asked abruptly, "Was the woman Emma Hayes?" The young officer nodded. "Yes, she's fine, just a bit emotionally shaken." I finally relaxed a bit, but the tension wasn't fully relieved. The situation wasn't over yet. Emma Hayes was just one piece of the puzzle in the Sophia mystery. The real answers still lay deeper. Inside the police station's interrogation room, Emma Hayes sat pale and frightened, her hands gripping the hem of her clothes tightly. After finishing my statement, I couldn't help but approach her and ask softly, "Emma, what exactly happened? How did you get entangled with Sophia Lane?" As soon as she heard the name, Sophia, Emma's eyes reddened, and she spoke in a choked voice. "Ethan Brooks, I really don't know who to trust anymore. These past few days, I've been getting threatening messages from an unknown number with some photos attached." "What kind of photos?" I frowned, pressing for details. Emma trembled as she pulled out her phone and showed me the images. Although they were blurry, I immediately recognized Sophia. She was wearing a grayish-blue pajama, standing blankly in an unfamiliar room with a vacant expression, like a puppet without a soul. "Insane," I muttered. "Where were these photos taken? Who sent them?" Sophia's appearance sent shivers down my spine. She never let herself be seen in such a state, especially without makeup, and even edited her selfies multiple times before posting. Emma interrupted my thoughts. "They threatened me not to report this to the police or else. They said I'd have to pay the price. I'm really scared. I don't know what else they'll do." I clenched my fists, my mind in chaos. Sophia was clearly being controlled, and these people had obviously gone deep, even targeting Emma. At that moment, the door opened, and Logan Reese walked in. His face was solemn, like a winter snow, and his gaze swept between us before he began to speak. We've uncovered more about Unit 4203. You need to listen carefully. Things are more complicated than you imagined. 71. The investigation led us to an old complex called Spring Breeze Garden. It was an aged residential area in the southern part of the city, which had existed since the Republic of China era. Most of the buildings were vacant, with only a few elderly residents remaining. Logan brought me and Officer Tianqian to Spring Breeze Garden. Under the dim streetlights, the narrow corridors felt old and decaying. We reached a specific door, where Logan knocked 3 times. No one answered. He glanced back at me, signaling to be ready. Then he kicked the door open. The scene inside made my eyes widen instantly. The room was lit by a faint ceiling light, casting flickering shadows. A cup of warm water sat on the table, and some papers were scattered on the floor. Logan picked up one of them, furrowed his brow, and handed it to me. It was a handwritten note with a line of neat writing. "Sophia is here. Bring the woman with you." Bring the woman? Logan took a deep breath, whispering, "Are they planning to bait her with Sophia?" He turned abruptly to Officer Tianqian. "Notify headquarters to seal off Spring Breeze Garden and check the surveillance. Emma is likely being watched." Listening to him, my mind went blank. Why was Sophia involved in all this? Was she kidnapped because I thought she was avoiding our relationship? "Continue searching," Logan said firmly. "Sophia hasn't been moved yet. This place will soon have visitors." His words hit my heart like a muffled drum. I took a deep breath, clenched my fists, and decided that no matter what happened, I would find Sophia, even if it put me in danger. At that moment, a window in Spring Breeze Garden swayed gently in the wind, resembling a ghostly gaze upon our backs. He struggled to speak, finally managing to say, "It was a young man wearing a hat." My heart leaped. A hat? Could it be Logan? But it didn't add up. If Logan was truly a cop, he wouldn't have used such indirect methods to investigate. He could have used official means without needing to go around in circles. I asked cautiously, my tone cooling slightly, "What did he look like?" The landlord stuttered, quickly explaining. "He wore black clothes and a duckbill cap, the brim pulled low, so I couldn't see his face, but he talked a lot. Even asked about any suspicious tenants or new people around here." This description threw me into complex thoughts. The person he described resembled Logan when I first met him at the complex. But if it wasn't Logan, who was this person, and why was he interested in my rental? I pressed for more information, staring at the landlord. "What did he say next?" The landlord wiped his forehead, hesitating. "He said if anything strange happened, not to act alone but to contact him first. He mentioned it might involve danger." I frowned. "Danger? Did he leave any contact information?" The landlord nodded quickly. "Yes, he gave me his number, saying to call him if anything happened. But I haven't contacted him. I'm just renting out places for business. I wouldn't dare get involved in such matters." I reached out. "What's the number?" The landlord nervously pulled out his phone and handed it to me. I checked his call log and found an unknown number without a name but marked with a red heart, clearly saved intentionally. I asked, "Is this it?" The landlord nodded repeatedly. Yes, I haven't lied to you. You can call it if you don't believe me." I smiled coldly and saved the number to my own phone before handing his back. "All right, leave now and don't let me see you again." The landlord was relieved, bowing repeatedly as he gathered his things and ran out. Even as he reached the door, he turned back with a smile. "I won't ask about the rent anymore. This was clearly a misunderstanding, officer." I didn't bother with him and slammed the door shut. The room fell silent. I sat on the bed, staring at the number on my phone. This person's identity and purpose were clearly not simple. Why were they targeting me? And why did they mention danger? After thinking it through, I decided to call Logan. When he answered, I recounted the landlord's story and the unknown number, focusing on the warning from the man in the cap. I asked, "Was it you?" Logan paused for a few seconds before chuckling. "You're overthinking it. I wouldn't have time to secretly ask landlords about you. Besides, I'm directly dealing with Sophia's case. Why would I go around in circles?" "Who is he then?" I asked. Logan's tone turned serious. "This person is interesting. Send me the number. I'll have the tech department look into their background. Be careful these next few days. If you encounter anyone like this, don't act impulsively. Notify me right away." I nodded and sent him the number. After hanging up, I felt uneasy despite my exhaustion. Without thinking further, I fell asleep. 104. The next morning, I was startled awake by urgent knocking. I opened my eyes to find Logan standing at the door, his face grave. He held up his phone. "We've traced that number. It's interesting. You'd better come with me." 106. I jumped up, grabbing my jacket to follow him out. On the way, he explained the situation. The number belonged to an anonymous prepaid card, frequently appearing in communication records of Spring Breeze Garden and Unit 4203 over the past few months. What was more bizarre was that the number's last call was the night before, in an abandoned factory. My back chilled as I listened. Abandoned factory? Could it be connected to Sophia? Logan glanced at me without giving a definitive answer. "We'll know after we get there." As we approached Spring Breeze Garden, Logan received news that the residents of Unit 4203 were in police custody, and the room was temporarily sealed off. He sent me and Officer Tianqian to investigate the factory while he handled the follow-up. 112. The abandoned factory was large, surrounded by overgrown weeds, with cracks in the concrete floor. Officer Tianqian was checking our equipment and warned, "The factory was the last location Sophia was tracked to. You need to be mentally prepared. If she was really brought here, it might not be good." My heart felt heavier, but I could only nod firmly. Upon entering the factory, we quickly discovered something amiss. In a dark room, letters and scattered photos were on the floor. Officer Tianqian picked up a photo and examined it, his brow furrowing. "It's Sophia. She was here." The photo showed Sophia sitting on a bed, staring blankly at the camera with an empty gaze. Seeing it made my heart tighten, and my voice trembled. "Is she still alive?" Officer Tianqian didn't answer. Instead, he continued to search the room. Soon, he found a crumpled diary and opened it. The content was brief. "Don't look anymore. There seems to be a gap in context here." Continuing with the next part. "Emma," I said sternly, my gaze directly on her. "What exactly are you doing here? Why did you suddenly appear at my doorstep? Were you looking for me or trying to get inside?" Emma flinched slightly, biting her lower lip as if trying to choose her words. Her face was filled with complex emotions: anger, fear, and a mix of unseen turmoil. After a while, she spoke softly. I just happened to pass by and saw you living here." "Passed by?" I laughed coldly, my tone heavier. "Do you think I'd believe that? Who just happens to be outside for so long?" "Emma, are you hiding something? What do you know about Sophia?" My words pierced her like a knife. When I mentioned Sophia, her body visibly shook, and her eyes flashed with caution and panic. She suddenly raised her voice. "I don't know. I really don't know where she is or what happened. Don't ask me." Her words were full of panic and determination, but the more she spoke, the more I felt she knew too much. "Emma," I adjusted my tone, trying to keep it calm. "You need to understand I'm not pushing you. I'm helping Sophia. If you really don't know where she is, at least tell me any clues you have. Only then can we find her. Save her." She lowered her head, biting her lip again, her eyes brimming with tears. She was clearly fighting an internal battle. Finally, she raised her head, her eyes pleading with me as she spoke with a trembling voice. "Ethan Brooks, believe me. I'm not intentionally hiding anything, but there are things I just can't say. If I do, it might harm her." "Harm her?" My eyebrows locked, staring at her face for any cracks. "What exactly happened to Sophia? Is she being controlled? Who's threatening you?" Emma's tears fell as she shook her head, sobbing softly. "I don't know. Really don't know. But I can only tell you she doesn't want you to find her. Really doesn't want you to. You won't be able to even if you try." This statement hit my heart hard. Did Sophia really say that? Or was someone forcing her? "Emma, if she really doesn't want me to find her, she should at least make it clear why." I stared at Emma, my urgency almost overwhelming her. "Where is she? Have you seen her? Is she in danger?" Emma stubbornly lowered her head, her fingers gripping the edge of the chair, her shoulders trembling, but she refused to answer my questions. The landlord, confused by this tug of war, scratched his head impatiently and said, "Are you two having some personal issue? Why don't you take it inside and discuss it properly? This is disturbing my business." His interruption made me realize the stalemate was pointless. I clenched my teeth, controlled my emotions, and opened the door, gesturing for Emma to enter. Emma hesitated before stepping inside. I closed the door and sat across from her, my tone smoother than before. Emma, at least tell me this, have you seen Sophia? Is she okay? Emma gazed at her hands, as if trying to rub them raw. Her silence made me increasingly uneasy. The more you know and keep hidden, the more complicated things get, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You want to protect Sophia, but if you don't tell me the truth, she's in even greater danger. We don't even know if she's alive. This statement made Emma's body jolt. She lifted her head, her face pale, her eyes filled with terror. After a moment, she murmured softly, "She's alive. At least when I last saw her, she was fine. But, I immediately pressed on. When was the last time you saw her? Where?" Emma clammed up, her expression turning resolute, like she had made a decision not to say another word. Her attitude only made me more anxious but helpless. I calmed down, quickly recalling all the information Emma had previously mentioned. She had spoken about the photos of Sophia. This seemed connected to her current fear. Emma, were those photos taken by Sophia? Was she coerced? My tone was low but forceful. Emma froze, her back straightening, her gaze drifting aimlessly. I knew I was on the right track. Or did she take those photos as part of some deal? That's enough. Emma's emotions suddenly erupted. She stood up, her eyes flashing with annoyance. "Ethan Brooks," I said, "I don't know. I won't tell you anything else. Leave me alone." After speaking, she rushed to the door without looking back. I tried to stop her, but she moved too fast, pushing past me and running out of the room. She disappeared quickly, vanishing at the end of the hallway. I stood there, my heart cold. She refused to tell the truth, but her reactions told me she knew the truth. Sophia's disappearance was more complex than it seemed. The next day, Logan came with news. He spread a map on the table, pointing to an area far from Chongqing's main city, Tongliang district. According to the investigation, our target was last seen in Tongliang's Dexing town, Logan said, his voice cool but his eyes sharp. This place is remote, with many abandoned factories and houses. If it's related to Sophia's disappearance, Dexing town is our best bet for finding clues. I took the map, my heart racing uncontrollably. Will Sophia be there? We'll find out when we get there, Logan replied, standing up to signal us to prepare to leave. As the car headed to Dexing town, my thoughts were in turmoil. Did this remote small town really hold the key to Sophia's whereabouts? If she was there, was she safe? What kind of conspiracy lay hidden behind all this? No one answered me. The darkening sky outside felt like an icy hand gripping my throat. Footsteps from outside the factory were faint but unmistakable in the silence. We three instantly became alert, our flashlight beams converging on the entrance. The light danced across the dim air, finally coming to rest on a hunched figure. He wore a duckbill cap, his head bowed, his body trembling slightly. He looked like a wary wild animal ready to flee. It was him, our target. Logan's eyes narrowed almost to a snarl. "Don't move! Police!" Before he finished speaking, he sprinted out, fast as a cheetah. The man clearly was prepared and took off running as soon as he heard Logan. Despite his clumsy steps, he had experience escaping. He rolled on the ground to dodge Logan's initial tackle. "Don't run!" I followed Logan closely, running faster than I ever had before. My mind echoed with one thought: catch him, find Sophia. In the darkness, footsteps and panting filled the air. Our target was familiar with the area, navigating the ruins with ease while we nearly tripped over debris. As his figure began to fade, I panicked and shouted, "Don't let him get away! He knows where Sophia is." Logan lunged with force, accurately grabbing the man's shoulder. But the man suddenly spun around, a glinting knife appearing in his hand. He wildly swung it, trying to fend off Logan. "Drop it!" Logan didn't back down. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. "You're not getting out of here." The man panted heavily, his eyes crazed. He ignored Logan's warning. With a burst of strength, he broke free from Logan's grip and dashed towards the rear door of the factory. "Block him!" Logan shouted. I gritted my teeth and chased after him, but only saw him leap over the half-open metal bars of the rear door. Just then, Officer Tianqian appeared unexpectedly from the side door, smirking coldly. "You think you can escape?" The man hadn't expected this and hesitated for a moment. Logan seized the opportunity to pounce from behind, pinning him to the ground in seconds. The knife clattered to the ground, and his struggles soon weakened. "Stop! Don't move me!" He pleaded softly, his voice filled with terror and desperation. Logan didn't relent. He swiftly handcuffed the man. "Who do you think you can outrun?" he said coldly. Officer Tianqian picked up the fallen knife, scrutinized it briefly before placing it in an evidence bag. Quite the smart guy, knew to bring a weapon for his business. "Now, tell us, where's Sophia?" The man didn't say a word. He just stared at the ground with a stubborn expression. Logan wasn't in a hurry, raising an eyebrow as his voice took on a stifling pressure. "The photos and the room setup both point to you. We have time to investigate, so let's see how long you can hold out." The man's face turned pale, a sheen of cold sweat appearing on his forehead. His lips trembled before he managed to mutter, "It's not my fault. They told me to do it. Those people are more terrifying than you think." The statement froze the air. Logan's gaze turned even sharper. "Who are they? Is Sophia with them?" The man didn't answer, clearly too afraid to say more. His face twitched, as if he was under immense psychological pressure. But we didn't have time to wait. "Take him in for questioning," Logan ordered. Officer Tianqian quickly cooperated, leading him to the car. Sitting in the car, I felt like a massive stone weighed on my heart. Sophia's whereabouts were still a mystery, and this clearly terrified suspect was just a pawn. Who were the people behind him? Why had they dragged Sophia into this? By the time we returned to the Tongliang police station, it was dark. The suspect was taken into the interrogation room with Logan and Officer Tianqian supervising. I could only anxiously wait outside. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. Time felt like it had stalled, with Sophia's image haunting my thoughts. Finally, the interrogation room door opened. Logan came out, his face still stern but with a hint of seriousness in his eyes. "How did it go?" I nearly rushed to ask. "Did he confess anything? Where is Sophia?" Logan paused for a moment before speaking in a low voice. He said Sophia and several other girls were taken to a more remote location, possibly an abandoned shed near Dexing town. They're apparently filming something. Filming? My heart clenched tightly. What are they doing? Logan didn't give a direct answer but said gravely, "You just need to know she still has a chance to be alive." I was taken aback. Logan's words were both reassuring and hinting at complexity. Before I could think further, he turned to Officer Tianqian, instructing, "Contact the local police station to seal off several abandoned buildings around Dexing town. We leave immediately." As the car headed towards Dexing town, doubts, fears, and anticipation mixed together, leaving me breathless. Was Sophia really there? Was she alive? If she was caught in such a terrible situation, could I rescue her in time? No one spoke on the way. The atmosphere inside the car was heavy enough to suffocate. When we arrived at the abandoned shed, it was already swarming with police. Under the dim lights, the shed looked like a sleeping beast. Logan gave the signal, and everyone quickly surrounded the building. I clenched my fists and followed Logan, my heart racing uncontrollably. The shed door opened silently. Inside, it was pitch black, the air thick with mold and decay. Flashlights illuminated the floor, revealing disorganized equipment, discarded filming gear, and a few empty plastic chairs. Just then, a faint sobbing sound came from the corner. I looked up sharply, the light beam fixed on a familiar face. It was her, Sophia.